Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. Hour 2 of today's program. It's a pleasure to be here. We're talking about Trump's meeting with Prime Minister Carney of Canada. Got a couple more clips I want to play from this. I've got other things in the stack of stuff as well. We will get there, my friends, in due course. By the way, if you want to reference the things in the stack of stuff, which is a hat tip to the late, great Rush Limbaugh. He had a physical stack of stuff, a stack of papers back in the day that he would reference, often shaking for dramatic effect, ruffling of the papers kind of like this. For you to hear on the microphone, he had a physical stack of stuff. We, my friends, have a digital stack of stuff at toddhuffshow.com. That's where you would go for that if you want to see anything that I'm referencing. You can check it out there. Before we get started, though, my friends, I would like to talk to those of you who love seafood. I'm talking real, authentic, wild-caught, American-made, that's not American-made, I guess, but harvested by American companies, an American company, that type of seafood. You got to check out Kenai Fish. Kenai Fish is a family-owned company that delivers wild-caught Alaskan seafood straight to your door. They have salmon, sockeye coho, and king salmon that is harvested from the pristine waters of the Kenai and Castleoff rivers. This salmon is all the seafood is vacuum sealed and shipped next day air to lock in that fresh, just-caught flavor. They've also got halibut from the Gulf of Alaska, because the name Gulf of America was already taken. Mild, sweet, and perfect for any recipe. And they've got shellfish, my friends. King crab, snow crab, scallops. It's the best Alaska has to offer. Fresh seafood, no middleman, right to your door. Good quality stuff. Kenai Fish is about quality, about sustainability, and hardworking, supporting hardworking fishermen. Go to KenaiFish.com today. That's Kenai. That is how you spell Kenai. KenaiFish.com. Use promo code Todd. You're going to save 15% on your purchase there. That's Kenai Fish, Kenai Fish.com. Friends, you'll taste the difference, and you will be hooked. All right, After Trump and Carney were sitting in the White House taking questions on the fly yesterday, negotiating in public, there was a press conference. This looks like it's back behind the Capitol. Carney's at the microphone, and a journalist asks Carney if he has asked Trump or requested that Trump stop calling Canada the 51st state. I kid you not. Listen to this.
Have you asked the president to stop calling Canada the 51st state?
Stop.
When did you ask him?
Today.
Okay, specifically, what did you ask him?
Exactly what you just said.
But what words did you use? How did you ask him?
Look, I gave you an answer. Do you have a follow-up?
What was his answer?
Well, look, I don't know. He's the president. He's his own person. I would go back to showing the difference between a wish and a reality. We're very clear. I've been very clear publicly, consistently. I've been very clear in private. I was clear again in the Oval Office. Would be clear throughout. The president, he understands that we're having a negotiation between sovereign nations, and that we will only pursue and accept a deal that's in the best interests of Canada, not just in the short term, but in the medium and long term for Canada.
Okay. Have you asked the president to stop referring to Canada as the 51st state? Yes, I have. Yes. Well, how did you ask him? What did you ask him? I asked you what you just asked me. Well, how did you phrase it? What was the words? Did you say pretty please? Did you make a demand? Did you ask a question? Did you ask it nicely? Were you forceful? How did you, I mean, that's not what she said, but that's what she was asking. And what was Trump's response? He didn't give an answer to that, by the way. I'm guessing because Trump said, no, listen, I'm going to call you the 51st state because that's what I think you need to be. That's how you guys are kind of acting with all the money that we've been spending to subsidize your country, to defend your country. You're acting like a state. So that's what I'm going to refer to you as. I'm guessing Trump probably said something like that. Who knows? Look, there's the stage presence of Trump and there's the behind the closed doors version of Trump. I think we all have this, or at least we all understand this. I've said this on here before. Listen, I am me at this microphone. I don't try to be someone I'm not. In fact, I think I've shared with you, I have a tremendous respect for people that have done what I've done, who have been trailblazers, who have created opportunities for me today with radio and podcasting and everything else. And I certainly try to learn from them, but then I take what I learned and apply it to me. And sometimes it doesn't even compute or work out or whatever. Doesn't mean that I don't respect their style, what they're doing, and everything else. It just means that it doesn't work for me, or I prefer to do it another way or whatever. But I don't try to emulate them. Even with Rush, who I think was clearly the best at this, everyone else playing for a very, very distant second place. In my humble opinion here, I wouldn't want to come on here and emulate Rush. There are things that I've learned from him more so than anyone else. There are people in this. There are people in this industry that I've certainly, tried to take what I've learned from them and apply it. But you don't want to emulate. I remember the day, one of the hardest programs I ever did was when Rush passed away. The next day, I decided I was going to use some of his signature lines, not to try to be him, but just to honor him when he would say, talent on loan from God. And we did a little bit of that, half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair sort of stuff, right? In fun and in tribute and in honor, but not to try to specifically imitate that. Rush would say often imitated, never duplicated, his show was. So, but there's still a stage presence. If nothing else, I have to enunciate differently on this microphone than I do in a public setting. I've heard, I think it was Chris Rock, the comedian. Yes, that comedian, get my wife's name out your mouth guy. He said that he's the same guy on stage as in private. He just turns it up a little bit. So if he's sarcastic, he's a little bit more sarcastic. If he's whatever, right? If he's loud, he's a little bit louder. Whatever the case may be. And there's truth in that. It's just a different dynamic. And so Trump walks into the stage, onto the negotiating stage, and he does things differently than he would in a private closed-door meeting. Trump understands the media. Trump's been around this his entire life. Not necessarily as the politician for the past 10 years, roughly, or whatever. He's been a politician or the front runner or the candidate or the guy that's been targeted by lawfare and everything else. But he understands how to get the media hooked, how to get people to talk about him. He understands that his rallies, I've been at a couple of these rallies where he'll stand up there at the microphone, and this is what he used to do. I don't know if he still does this or not, probably. He'd point back there at the row of cameras. Oh, those cameras back there, those are operated by fake news. The crowd would boo, boo. Yeah, very, very fake news back there. Some of them are good. Most of them are not. You can't trust what they say. But these folks back here probably aren't even taking this part of the, playing this for their audience. They don't want me to be criticizing them on their air and all this sort of stuff. But Trump understands the value of the stage presence. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of political drama, a little bit of political theater. I've always said that. But see, the left engages in what's oftentimes just absolute crap theater. Spartacus giving a make-believe filibuster that went 25 hours is not good drama. Spartacus sitting down with Hakeem Jeffries on the steps of the Capitol for 12 hours. I mean, it's just ridiculous sort of stuff that we're subjected to. Trump is good at this. So I'm behind closed doors. I'm sure it was a cordial. Trump can be forceful and very direct when necessary, but he's also trying to accomplish something. And I think Trump doesn't get enough credit for this. Trump is trying to accomplish an outcome here. And in fact, that's what I want to play next, is a soundbite where Trump's, again, this was yesterday, sitting in front of the cameras in the White House, and he's being asked about trade deals. How many trade deals are you going to sign? When are the trade deals going to start coming? What are they going to look like? How much of this, how many of these should we expect next week? Trump did, by the way, say that we are going to have big news later this week or early next week, again, in ways only Trump can do. But Trump is trying to accomplish something. And at the core of it all, and this is what the left either doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand or doesn't want to communicate clearly to its audience. But again, at the core is what I've talked about so far. America first, fixing situations that are not in America's best interests, working out better arrangements for the United States government, of course, to the American citizen, the taxpayer. That's at the core of this. Now, Trump's a little bit different than a lot of folks. He doesn't necessarily have all the details of that hammered out. Some people want Trump to say, this is what I want. I want it to look like this. He just said, look, I want it to be better. We've been treated badly. We've been treated unfairly. This has to stop. We're the police of the world. The United States military takes care of all these folks. We've done lots of great things for these folks. They need us more than we need them. This isn't going to cut it. And so Trump's just wanting to see improvement in these deals so that it alleviates pressure on the American taxpayer. It ushers in prosperity for small business, for big business, for the American worker. That's what Trump is trying to accomplish. Specifics will be figured out along the way. The left doesn't always like this because the left likes to micromanage everything. And that's, of course, one of the major faults of the leftist ideology is that you cannot have a top-down approach where the government is controlling all of these things and all of the details. That does not work. So Trump is being asked about this. When are we going to start seeing these trade deals? When are we going to, when's this going to happen? What are the results of all this, Trump? And so this is Trump's response to the media.
Everyone says, when are you going to sign deals? We don't have to sign deals. We could sign 25 deals right now, Howard, if we wanted. We don't have to sign deals. They have to sign deals with us. They want a piece of our market. We don't want a piece of their market. We don't care about their market. So we're going to put down some numbers, and we're going to say our country is open for business. And they're going to come in, and they're going to pay for the privilege of being able to shop in the United States of America. It's very simple. It's very simple. So I wish they'd stop asking, how many deals are you signing this week? Because one day we'll come and we'll give you 100 deals. And they don't have to sign. All they have to do is say, oh, we'll start sending our ships right now to pick up whatever we want or to bring whatever we want. It's very, very simple. And I think my people haven't made it clear. We will sign some deals, but much bigger than that is we're going to put down the price that people are going to have to pay to shop in the United States. Think of us as a super luxury store, a store that has the goods. You're going to come and you're going to pay a price, and we're going to give you a very good price. We're going to make very good deals. And in some cases, we'll adjust. But that's where it is. And we've been ripped off by everybody for 50 years, and we're just not going to do that anymore. We can't do that. And we can't let any country do that to us. We're just not going to do it anymore.
And so that's the bottom line. So Trump says, look, quit asking me about deals. Some of these things aren't even going to be deals. We're going to set up a scenario where if you want to do business with the United States, this is what it's going to look like. You either sign up and accept it or, that's your problem. You need us a lot more than we need you. Now, I know that this isn't, all the warm and fuzzy things about politics that a lot of people like, all the, the kissing of the babies, the shaking of the hands, the just the banquets honoring people, naming things after people, all that kind of stuff. This is the hard work. But again, at the core, Trump's saying America has been taken advantage of far too long, for 50 years, in fact. It's going to stop. This is not going to be that it works any longer. We have what people want. We're going to start using that to our advantage. We're going to start negotiating with that. Friends, you benefit from this. And listen, as I've talked about yesterday, there's self-interest and there's selfishness. I think Trump is a very reasonable human being. He's not demanding that everybody give up their own personal interests. In fact, he's saying they want to do business here. That's what they want to do. Okay, if you're going to do business here, instead of you dictating the terms, and often dictating terms that, candidly, when you look at the big picture, put a lot more of the onus and the strain on the United States of America, that's not going to cut it anymore. It's going to work this way, or maybe it's a specific way for you and your country. Maybe we work that out on an individual basis. But the bottom line, that's where we are headed, says President Donald J. Trump. Also, let me see here. One more thing I think I want to play. Bear with me here. Yes, this is the exchange. I should have played this before Carney's response. I meant to do that. So this is the exchange when Carney, before the media, sitting down beside Trump. I should have done this sooner. This is my mistake. You got to go back 2 sound bites, and this would have been inserted before the 2 sound bites back, where Carney is talking about, asking Trump to not use the term 51st state when referring to Canada. This is Trump and Carney sitting down. This is a little bit longer clip here, but this is talk about Canada not being for sale, and this goes on for a bit because Carney's going to chime in, Trump's going to chime in, and then Trump's going to chime in at the end. Trump's going to chime in first, then Carney, and then Trump at the end. But he at the end, Trump says, never say never, is what Trump says to Carney. They don't like this. In fact, if you could watch the video, maybe you did. You can't right now. You're listening to the audio. But if you could see the video, you can see, Carney's not, he doesn't like what Trump's saying. He wants to jump in, but he also knows if I jump in here, I'm only going to make matters worse. Anyway, so that's where we're headed here. I'm going to play that clip in just a second. Friends, I want to tell you, though, really quickly, as we're talking about American businesses, businesses that care about America first, and what Trump's doing specifically, and standing up for the American worker. If you want businesses that are pushing in that direction, who are not supporting woke causes, you can find these businesses on Freedom Marketplace. FreedomMarketplace.net is a place that you can go to find businesses that love America, that are pushing in the same direction you are. They have made a pledge not to support woke candidates or woke causes, and it's free for you to use. So go to freedommarketplace.net to shop those businesses, my friends. Liberty and business for all. All right, I'm going to play this exchange. This is, again, Trump and Carney and the media having a conversation here, specifically about Canada being for sale, Canada becoming the 51st state. I just want you to listen to this. Here it is.
Canada should become the 51st state were chosen?
The journalist says, Mr. President, you have said that Canada should become the 51st state. And so now Trump's going to jump in.
No. Well, I still believe that, but it takes two to tango, right?
Takes two to tango.
No, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said that's the way it was meant to be. But I do feel it's much better for Canada, but we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it's
pouring it on here.
It would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have. They have. I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, they were low, and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
Carney's mouthing the words "never" for the media to see. Trump says, "Never say never, never say never," and Carney's mouthing the words "never, never, never, never" for everyone to see. Anyway, that's how that went down. I should have played that earlier before the first clip I played in this hour of Carney. That's my mistake, my friends. That gave you fuller context, but I've got to take a break. Sit tight. You're listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Shifting gears here a little bit. I had mentioned earlier, maybe at the beginning of last hour, actually, as I think about this, but one of the things in the stack of stuff is a clip of Byron Donalds speaking with Kristen Welker of NBC News and Meet the Press. I've got that out there, but I decided during the break I actually want to talk about something else because we've talked about that a lot. That's still hanging out there. We might get to that later today, or who knows, after another day this week. But I want to go here. This is headline at thefederalist.com. You might have seen this some other place. Headline: Washington Post wins Pulitzer Prize after downplaying Trump assassination attempt as, quote, loud noises. So this is fantastic. On Monday, the Washington Post announced that it won a Pulitzer Prize in the breaking news category for its coverage of the July 13th, 2024 attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Now, when I say that, of course, we're approaching a year ago that this had happened. A year ago that Trump was nearly fatally wounded by an attempted assassin's bullet. July 13th will mark the 1-year mark of that. I don't know where the media stopped caring about this, talking about this. The media's coverage of this, which we'll get into, began with saying Trump left the stage after loud noises were heard. It eventually turned into them saying it was staged, at least some radicals, that it was staged, questioning whether or not the bullet itself really hit Trump's ear. Maybe it was just a fragment. What's the big deal? Some people think it was staged. You know, the standard kind of, I guess, series of reactions to something like this. But the media and, of course, the true conspiracy theorists out there refuse to accept that Donald Trump was millimeters away from losing his life. Now, in the aftermath, I will tell you this, you remember this as well. Many out there in social media, they were cheering that Trump had been shot. They were upset that the shooter didn't have a good enough aim. That's what people were saying. You remember this, right? You remember the ever so loving, considerate, compassionate, radical left say, man, I wish the shooter had more practice. I wish he had a better aim. These are the same folks who undoubtedly, every time someone with the last name of Trump passes away, go to X or wherever they go now, Blue Sky, and post things using hashtag wrong Trump, meaning we wish that the other Trump, President Trump, is who they wish would pass away. This is sick and disgusting and reprehensible behavior, but this is how they behave nonetheless. So, going back to the article here, the coverage in question, that Trump was taken away after loud noises at a rally, according to a July 13th headline. So, the Washington Post wins a Pulitzer Prize for the way it broke the news about President Trump's near deadly assassination attempt on his life by using the headline. Let me read the full headline here in its entirety, as there's a link here. It says this: Trump taken away after loud noises at rally. That was the headline. They got a Pulitzer Prize for this. Now, you've heard me from time to time on this program mention how stupid I think a lot of these award ceremonies are. Listen, I understand. In fact, at the beginning of the show today, I talked about an anonymous survey conducted by The Atlantic. They do this every year. They ask NBA players a whole bunch of things. Who's the most overrated, underrated? Where's the, I don't know, who's the most feared player in the NBA? By the way, I think it was again this year. James Johnson on the Indiana Pacers, who nobody wants to mess with. This guy's a professional fighter, kickboxer. I don't know if it's Muay Thai, kickboxing. I think he's fought MMA. The dude is the real deal. I mean, there's nobody that's going to whoop him in the NBA, and they know it. But they ask these questions, and everybody likes to get honor and recognition, right? That's what yesterday I think I mentioned the Oscars, Emmys, Grammys, whatever these things are. Everybody likes to get honored among their peers, especially if it's all the peers are together. You're up there, you go on stage, you get recognized. Everybody likes that. But my friends, in a free market society, isn't the real measure how much success you have in getting people to, in the case of, say, movies, watch your movies and like your movies and be fans of yours? Isn't the name of the game in music to get people to like your music, to download your music, to share your music, to go to your concert? Isn't that the name of the game? Isn't that how you would measure it? That's how I would measure it. But nonetheless, these things matter. And the same thing is in the media. Excuse me. In the media, or in these games, these award ceremonies, people who often are not acknowledged in the free market as having success, some of these folks can get success or faux success by winning some prizes and awards, being recognized on the stage. if you write a headline, that says, if you were there at the assassination attempt, you had journalists there, you're covering the story, and your headline is that Trump was taken away after loud noises were heard at the rally, what on earth is that? The loud noises were not the reason Trump was taken away. Did the journalists not see the blood gushing from Trump's ear? Did the journalist not see all of that? Did the journalist not see the other people? Some people, by the way, who died at this event. Did they not see this? Did they not see paramedics and EMTs and Secret Service diving on top of the president taking cover? What do you mean Trump was taken away after loud noises at the rally? The loud noises, by the way, at least should have resembled that of gunfire. You should have at least put loud noises that resemble gunfire. After I think about it for a moment, if I was the journalist, I would at least assumed that the loud noise that sounded like gunfire, and Trump holding something over his ear with blood coming out, Secret Service on top of Trump, I would think any reasonable journalist would have concluded that something happened that was a lot more than a loud noise at a rally. This got a Pulitzer Prize. What in the world? Continuing here in this article, according to the Post's self-congratulatory write-up on its award, WAPO's, that's short for Washington Post, live updates file, from which the aforementioned headline came, earned the paper what was once journalism's top honor, the Pulitzer. The Post's first report from Butler, published almost immediately at 6:21 p.m. in a live updates file. The source of the loud noises was not immediately clear. That's what the article read initially. The source of the loud noises was not immediately clear. Well, no one knew exactly the particular gun that those loud noises came from, but anyone with a brain could have ascertained that the loud noises came from a gun that was firing in the general direction of President Trump. At least some of them. Some of those were return fire from Secret Service agents or police on the scene. But they weren't just loud noises, the article writes. They were gunshots that ripped through Trump's ear and killed firefighter and father Corey Compertor, who died shielding his family from the assassin's bullet. In fact, the Post knew the gravity of the situation because it published that headline with the featured photo showing blood pouring down the side of Trump's face. So I guess these award-winning journalists at the Washington Post thought that the loud noise was so loud that it ruptured Trump's eardrum, causing blood, to come from his ear. So they post a picture of Trump with a bloody ear, and they say that Trump was rushed off of stage because of loud noises. Do not tell me you're a journalist. I could have gotten a group of kindergartners who could have explained better what had gone on at the scene in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th. What a bunch of clowns and fake news, my friends. Disinformation, misinformation, not even trying to get people the accurate information. It is remarkable, and they win an award for it. I've got to take a break, my friends. Sit tight, back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Final segment here of this program today. I know it's a very, very depressing time, but you can listen to episodes of this program by tuning into our podcast at toddhuffshow.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Before I get into this and wrap up what we've been talking about here in the last segment, my friends, let me ask you something. Would you rather take 2 soft gels a day or spend hours in a doctor's office talking about your cholesterol? I know what I would choose, and I'm even friends with my doctor, by the way, but I'm choosing to take Solti. Solti is an all-natural, clinically proven dietary supplement that lowers cholesterol. No prescriptions, no doctor visits. It's not even a drug, but it's been proven to work for others. It may be able to work for you. Just 2 Solti soft gels a day. That's all it takes to take care of your heart health. Now, you might need doctor's visits and medication and those other things, but this is a great place to start, a fantastic place to start. Science is on your side, my friends, if you start here. Your family needs you healthy. Your church does. America needs you in the fight. Solti is a simple way to make sure that you are around for the long haul. Go to Solti.com. That's S-O-L-T-E-A, Solti.com, SOLTEA.com. Use promo code Todd, and if you do that, you're going to save 50% off your purchase, your first 3 months supply, and you're going to get free shipping to boot. Again, that's Solti.com, SOLTEA, promo code Todd. It doesn't get much easier than just 2 Solti soft gels a day. The only thing you have to lose, my friends, are those high cholesterol numbers. All right, so let's wrap up here. This article at the Federalist talking about the Pulitzer that the Washington Post won for their coverage, their breaking news coverage on the attempted assassination of Trump, even though the initial story that broke said that Trump was rushed off stage because of loud noises. And of course, that article featured, according to this, I remember there was a lot that hit right back then. I remember my son and I were lifting weights when we got the message back on that July evening. But they posted it with the picture of blood coming out of Trump's ear. And here we go, back to this article at thefederalist.com. Yet the Post still went with and won an award for that angle. The angle that it was loud noises, by the way. 2 days later, the paper's Paul Farhi defended the media's coverage, of course he would, that deliberately downplayed the horrific event, saying media outlets, quote, reported cautiously about what had occurred since it wasn't immediately clear what was unfolding. Of course, it wasn't completely clear what was happening. It was chaotic. But to pretend that we didn't know that something struck Trump in the ear, or to pretend that we didn't hear gunshots, is preposterous. Give me a break. But this is a quote from Farhi's writing a couple days later at the Washington Post. But being right rather than first with the news wasn't good enough for many readers, Farhi wrote. He later paraphrased Poynter Report media columnist Tom Jones, who argued that, quote, news organizations can tolerate criticism, but inaccurate reporting destroys their most precious asset, their credibility. As if the Post has ever cared about accurate reporting, again, according to the Federalist here. That the Washington Post can receive a Pulitzer Prize for describing an attempted presidential assassination as loud noises isn't just a media failure. It's the Pulitzer Prize's final... lost my place here. Listen, we've got a mess. We've got a mess when it comes to journalism. This is make-believe nonsense. This is not to be taken seriously. Anyone who knew that anyone that was there, anyone that was reporting on what happened. I mean, imagine if you were there. And I understand media has to verify things, and you can't just say whatever comes to mind. And that's not what I'm not saying that. But to say that Trump was rushed off stage with an apparent ear injury that followed what sounded like gunfire would have not been a misinterpretation of the events at all. You didn't have to say that it was a single shooter or whatever from the rooftop. You didn't have to go to those details. Those details were not learned until later. But the idea that is good breaking news, that it's even remotely close to accurate, that it's responsible, why do that? You know, I don't even know what they stood to gain by this. by reporting it this way. If it was an assassination attempt, that was eventually going to be obvious enough for all Americans. And why wouldn't they have thought that something was wrong that was more than just loud noises when they saw blood coming down the president's face from his ear? Listen, at some point, these people are just morally bankrupt and broken, which as people, all of us are. It's why we need a savior, my friends. But at some point, this is just, it is who they are. It's how they're going to operate. And they knew that a president who had pictures of himself standing up in defiance, yelling, "Fight, fight, fight," was going to help his presidential chances and not hurt them. And unfortunately, that's not what they wanted. And they wanted to prevent that from happening. Gotta go, SDG.